Hi, everyone. It's Congressman Blake Moore here. I am calling in from Washington, D.C. Hopefully you're past your home commute and it's not too late to join for hopefully the next hour. And I look forward to chatting with you. With obviously so much going on, so thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's impossible to make one or many statements covering much of what is going on, so I really do value these town halls and these chances to get into the details a little bit more, and so I appreciate you listening in, whether you called in or got a call from us. Thanks for hanging on the line. My wife usually sees the phone ring at this moment, and the caller ID will say me, and I always get an earful that it wasn't me actually calling, it was an auto dial, so if you're frustrated with that, it's the same as my wife as well. Look, we do these teletown halls very, very regularly. If you ever want to go back to one that you may have missed or catch another one, you can always check out the YouTube page or the website. And as we get going here, please hit *3 for questions. So if you just type in *3, you'll go into a question queue. If you would like to sign up for my weekly e-newsletter, which I think is the best way for us to regularly communicate, share what we're doing, share some information about legislation that we're proposing or we're voting on, district work, what's going on, highlights here or there, a little bit of personal take from me on my thoughts of the week, and would love to have you sign up for the weekly e-newsletter, and again, that's *6. But to ask a question, to get in queue, is *3. So while we're getting the questions ready, I'll talk to you about a few things going on, and then we'll jump into the questions. We're 38 days into the longest, I'm kind of getting sick of saying this, longest partial government shutdown. And you'll remember we passed 11 of the 12 appropriations bills earlier this year after a few months of a short-term extension. Finalized it all, but everything with the Department of Homeland, immigration officials, and things like that, there was sort of partisan negotiations going on with this remaining portion of it. But this remaining 12th of the 12 appropriations bills funds a broad portion of things that affect us on a daily. So you have FEMA, obviously TSA, that's the most prominent, that's one of the news the most. You have the Coast Guard, immigration enforcement, across the board. So there's a lot there, and many of these employees are just going without pay again. You may have experienced travel delays. I think from my perspective, and I've had to travel a lot during this shutdown portion, I've seen Utah step up. As I talk to the TSA agents each time, I do tell them thank you for putting up with this. This has nothing to do with them, and they're showing up and they're moving people through to get to our destinations. And so I've noticed Utah does a great job. That's not the case everywhere, and there has been many delays. And I think over 100,000 DHS employees, 50,000 TSA, they're going unpaid. So, and we're even seeing many resignations and absences at various airports. Again, wish this weren't the case. I've expressed the same frustration with each government shutdown. Federal workers and everyday Americans should not have to bear the brunt of politically motivated shutdowns. It's rarely about the individuals most affected. We've seen that for the last 6 months, I would say. The House has passed a bill to fund DHS several times now. Democrats are blocking this bipartisan funding. I actually put a statement out today related to this that talked a little bit, just a little bit of candor from me, that in response to the tragic events in Minneapolis, like the Trump administration, it removed local leadership, brought in a real expert, Tom Homan, I think, served in multiple administrations. He came in and brought, took the temperature down, and I think he's done a great job. President Trump's team, their administration made a cabinet level change over the Department of Homeland. And I don't understand how that couldn't be a great reason to say, okay, so we've made some changes, let's go ahead and get things funded. I hear an earful when Democrats are in the majority about how dangerous it is to go for these multi-week, now multi-month shutdowns But it's not enough of a win. I'm hearing chatter that there is movement in the Senate, and I would hope to see that play out this week and as soon as possible. We need our government open. We need this portion of it opened, and there's some critical aspects to this. So hopefully, like I mentioned, we'll be able to move some of that along this week. When you hear, as I mentioned, chatter, that is usually a sign that something's coming up. I don't think the House and the Senate are scheduled to be in session next week, and before, it's usually right before Easter and right after Easter. We're usually not in session, and hopefully we can get something that the Senate can finalize. Like I said, the House has done several bills. They're very simple, the exact same funding that was even during the Biden administration. No change to anything, just continuation of that, and even that has gone blocked. And so hopefully we can see a change here. So look to a little more news in the next day or two to see if there's a deal that's being done, and then it would get sent over to the House. Secondly, the second update that I'll give before we jump into questions, my team and I introduced a piece of legislation. They're the ones that do the majority of the work on these, as you all would know. Our team put a lot of time into this over the last few weeks. It is called the Event Contract Enforcement Act. And what it does is it puts restrictions on the prediction markets. Another term I'll use on this is called prop betting. You may have seen Governor Cox take a pretty firm stand. You may have followed along to Attorney General Derek Brown. Both of those individuals are doing a sensational job leading this. Utah's a different state on all things gambling, as you all know. And so Utah's taking a lead on this. And so we introduced this bill. Senator Curtis and Adam Schiff have joined joint bill in the Senate. I'm working with Salud Carbajal. We introduced this a few weeks ago. It got a ton of attention, a lot of national attention, more than I'd really ever experienced before on just the introduction of a bill. So in traditional betting, an individual places a wager on an outcome with odds set by a bookmaker that determines winnings. I think that's a standard way we all understand this gaming world and betting world to go. But in a prediction market, a trader buys shares in an outcome of an event. There are no odds, and share prices fluctuate based on market responses, and it allows investors to turn a profit if they sell high or if their chosen outcome proves correct. So prediction markets have been around for a long time and have been used as a legitimate financial tool. That's where this part gets really interesting, is because the online betting world is taking advantage of something that has been in existence for a long time and using it to enhance more betting to go on, more ubiquitous betting at the palm of everybody's hand on their cell phone in anonymous situations in most cases. In recent years, prediction markets, or as I have the bill called, is an event contract. They have sponsored contracts related to topics that expose our country to national security, public safety, or insider trading risks by creating incentives for insiders to leak or profit from exclusive information, or for criminals to invest in contracts related to their own wrongdoing. I mean, it's ripe for major issues here. So an example of this would be just hours before the United States military strikes in Iran, more than 150 accounts made investments of over $1,000 in event contracts based on the timing of the strikes, with 6 traders. 6 of those 150 initiations of an account, 6 of them together making over $1.2 million. I think we can all agree that's wrong. In many states, obviously including Utah, gambling is illegal. But prediction markets, like Kalshi or Polymarket, they avoid state law by claiming this is investing instead of gambling. And to make a prop bet on whether or not the U.S. would invade Cuba or when a politician were to retire, like those are not prop bets that we as a society should be engaged in. I think we can all agree on that. In fact, those stipulations have been in place for some time now, but our legislation gives the CFTC, the governing body over this, more teeth and sort of we not only invite them, but we we're kind of requiring them to get involved in this and take a more strong regulatory approach to this so we can avoid this spiraling out of control. So great leadership from Governor Cox and Derek Brown. Excited about those things. We've got some other great pieces of legislation coming up. I've been traveling to the district, meeting with some chambers of commerce events up in Box Elder, local leaders, students, many of you. We'll be doing more of that in the coming months as well. Looking forward to the next 2 weeks to hopefully be back home. So lots going on, lots happening out there. I'm sure you have questions. I anticipate questions about Iran as well, and so we'll jump into that as we get going through these questions. So again, *3 to enter the question queue, and *6 to join our newsletter. And you can press those at any time throughout the call. We will jump to questions, and we'll start in Roy. Jason and Roy.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is about, there's a ton of things I want to ask, but my question is about election integrity. From my perspective, the biggest threat to free and fair elections in November is actions from Republicans, whether it's the Save America Act. I know on its face that this thing was designed to look like an election integrity bill, but there's compelling arguments that it's actually an effort to disenfranchise legitimate voters. And then the Trump administration has been doing a lot of things to violate election integrity, like trying to get sensitive voter information from the states, including Utah. And so I'm wondering what you're going to do to make sure that we have free and fair elections and that anyone who wants to vote can vote without undue burden.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate the question, and I think this is the actual conversation we should all be having. So I appreciate the candor. This is obviously a very hot topic right now. This bill, the Save America Act, it exists. It's in the Senate now, and they are going through their process. The Senate has a completely different process than the House does. Again, that's dating back for centuries. Filibusters a part of the Senate and requiring a higher threshold to get legislation fully done. I think we all kind of know that. Regarding the SAVE Act, let's break this down. And I want to value your thoughts here and kind of look at this from both perspectives. So we can all agree what the SAVE Act is trying to accomplish. I think it's the Utah's approach to require identification, proving citizenship. Everybody can look at it. It's already law. You have to be a citizen to vote, and this legislation is tackling what can exist, what loopholes can exist out there on that process of citizenship. But when we take a step back and look at the actual legislation, we should be okay with requiring proof of citizenship. I think that's broadly accepted as well. And then there's the process of ensuring that we clean up voter rolls. I have been in Congress for almost 6 years, so in my 6th year, and the concept of states running elections is very important to me as well. And when I was in the minority, I made it very clear that Utah needed its I actually had a Ricky Hatch from Weber County Elections come and be a witness, one of the key witnesses, back in 2021, I believe. Maybe it was 2022 by that point. But and I looked to that as well. And so all the times that I put out information about a vote on Save America Act, I've always talked about, hey, I really like the way Utah does this. We're working to ensure that, we can all wrap our heads around, every state can wrap our heads around those 3 simple things: requiring voter ID, proving citizenship, and cleaning up voter rolls. The area that I'm going to validate with your concern is there'll be extra steps involved. If you were to change your voter registration, you would need to take a passport, a birth certificate, something to prove your citizenship into a clerk's office. If you are married, and your birth certificate is in your maiden name, so female, married, birth certificate, maiden name, married name, you have a marriage license, there will be some paperwork involved. And the key is to make sure that we do everything. So in the SAFE, in all of our discussions, all those things continue to come up about how we mitigate some of these issues. So we keep as many people voting as possible because we want high voter turnout. I've always wanted that, and it's getting through the logistics and ensuring that we do this the right way. And so there's a balancing act there, and several iterations of this have gone through, and what you kind of don't see, I think, in the public world or what's communicated online is like all that work that went into, like one of the stipulations is having, it requires the states to have access to a printer copier. I know my printer copier goes on the fritz all the time. I've got a decent printer at home. Like those issues are we've been thoughtful about those, and we're trying to mitigate all of that to the extent possible. I don't know the fate of this in the Senate. I have met with Utah election officials numerous times, and when you hear the headline, "Oh, our Utah election officials do not want to, provide extra voter information to the federal government," like, depending on what world we're in, whether it be a Trump world or a Biden world or in the future, like, people will make an opinion based on that. But our election officials are just like, no, we are trying, we are making sure to protect our data, regardless of who's in the administration, and we want to do that because that's something that's important to them. And so all of that has to be taken into consideration. So that's the state of play right now. The Senate, I think, is they've been debating this, and it's unlikely to pass a filibuster. It's unlikely to get to 60 votes. They're going to move right now, I believe, to the Department of Homeland Funding and getting that measures, but that's an imminent thing that has to get done this week, and that's the state of play. So thank you for that. I hope that you get a little bit of perspective on where things have landed. I've supported this bill and have worked, and Utah does a good job of our mail-in procedures, and that's not part of the bill. That's sometimes a common misnomer. That is not part of the bill as well. That would still maintain its continuation in Utah. All right, let's go to Box Elder County, to Corinne with Curtis. Curtis.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Representative Moore. I know there's a lot going on with everything going over in the Middle East, but we are going to run out of a farm bill around September, October. Do you have any idea if we're going to be able to get another farm bill passed? Are they planning on working on it? Give me some insight, if you would. Obviously, Box Elder County, I'm a farmer, and we really need a farm bill.
We absolutely really do need a farm bill. We have not had one, Curtis, since 2018. That's 2.5 years before I was in Congress. That is the last time we did a full rescope of the policies of a farm bill is pre-COVID. And if I learned nothing else from the agriculture world during the COVID nonsense, was how much things changed for you all working in this space. You've been going on a continual reauthorization over and over again without major policy changes that are needed we're going on 8 years now, and it's ridiculous. So I've never seen this much momentum on a farm bill. Glenn Thompson is the chairman of the committee. Great guy. Our Utah Farm Bureau has been very close with our office, kind of providing updates. We have continual meetings on this. But getting into the weeds briefly, is that most farm bills and the conversations around it, they're about SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and that's where it becomes the contentious point. This version that we've got right now, that's been in the works for a little while, that has passed committee, and we hope to see it come to the floor soon. We Republicans did a a reconciliation bill, which for our purposes just means every budget cycle, so once a year, you get to do a bill that doesn't have to meet the threshold of the filibuster, so it can just be on party line votes. So this was a Republican-only bill, and we actually got some of the provisions that would otherwise normally be in a farm-year world that are a little more contentious, that maybe Democrats aren't as supportive of. We got those through, and so the committee has been able to work together because some of it has just been off the table and it's already passed. And that's why recent years have not been I've not been as optimistic in recent years. I'm more optimistic now. So it should be coming to the floor soon. Farmers just need stability. This is not an industry where, I tour and get involved and hear from local groups. We're just trying to just get the process done. Protect against major, some of the crop insurance is the key piece. Just protect against some of the calamities that can happen and the uncertainty in this industry, and you can get producing what you love to do and what your families have done for generations. And I'm hopeful that we can get past this. It would be monumental to be able to get a farm bill. It's been far too long since a refreshed. It has not been there's been the same policy in place since 2018, so we do reauthorize it for other listeners. I know Curtis knows this, but we just want to get an updated version, and this is the closest I've seen us to getting to that point. So thank you, Curtis. Appreciate it. Let's go to Logan, Utah. We'll go to Jenna, and go Aggies. They put in about as good a run as you could put. They battled Arizona like crazy. They even made a run at the very end. Jenna, I don't know if you're a big Aggie fan, but that was great to see the Aggies do so well in the tournament.
Yeah, definitely an Aggies fan. So my question is just in regards to the shutdown, specifically with TSA. I keep seeing all this rhetoric that Democrats are stopping it and whatnot, but from what I've seen, the Democratic Party has presented several bills to fund TSA, which have all been struck down. And Trump himself has been saying to not negotiate with Democrats until the SAVE Act is passed, which I think is basically just holding the American public hostage. And, I just don't understand why with Republican Party, has a majority in all aspects of the government, why we can't get this passed. I think it's strange to keep blaming it on Democrats.
Absolutely fair. So the House version of any funding has not required X to pass Y, right? There hasn't been this, nothing has been held hostage. We have done basic either refreshed policy funding that was kind of was bipartisan out of committee, but then when it came to the floor, there was just too much going on in Minneapolis for there to be a finalization of it, or the bills that we have also presented. I think we voted on 3 times now over the last several months, have just been straight continuation funding that even goes back. The last time this was refreshed was during President Biden's term. So none of those games that Washington loves to play on both sides. They always sort of we'll pass this if we can also attach this to it. None of that was done in the House. We did straightforward bills. So that I stand firm on. The reason why, so as I mentioned earlier, I would look at, if I was a Democrat, so if I was looking from this Democratic perspective, you have always, you've traditionally supported this funding. You have always called it dangerous to go to a shutdown. I got told that when I was in the minority several times. And I would say, okay, so Holman was brought in, Bovino was removed from Minneapolis, temperature has been taken down, and they changed the literal Secretary of Homeland Security. To me, that would be enough to be able to say, hey, we've forced changes in this world. I think the Trump administration was starting to make some of those regardless of whatever happened with the funding. And so I think it was time to celebrate a positive and move on. there, all of the list of requirements that Schumer and Jeffries, I'm sure they connected on it and put it out there. Those items will be what the Senate is kind of working on right now to get to a point where they could send us a final bill. Things like body cam, I've always been supportive of law enforcement having body cam, right? And so, like, those kind of things are out there to be negotiated on, and we'll kind of see what product comes out of the Senate. So thanks, appreciate the perspective. Okay, star 3 again. I forget to mention this. Star 3 for those new listeners to jump on into the queue to ask a question, and star 6 for newsletter. We're going to go to Layton with Ben.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, Ben. I can hear you just great.
My question is on affordability and gas prices, particularly with the war in Iran. And this was something that really plagued the Democrats last cycle as far as gas prices go. So I was wondering if you're concerned about your party's chances in 2026.
Okay, thanks. Great question. In fact, I'll kind of cover a little bit of what's going on there with respect to this. You can tie gas prices directly to the conflict in Iran right now, and kind of touch on a little bit of that. Obviously, this is not a political call, so regardless of whatever that goes on in the midterms is not something I necessarily opine on for this call. But dealing with these issues is obviously very important. High gas prices, yeah, they're not good for anybody who's in control of Congress or the White House or whatnot. So that's clearly the case, and I know that the administration is very concerned about it. I would say on a big picture, you can look at the tactical approach, the tactical issues at that level with the conflict in Iran right now, and you can highlight a lot of major successes, right? From strikes on their missile depots, drones, naval command, ability to keep their cyber retaliation at bay, and the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, their leadership is constrained, if not decimated in many ways. On the strategic level, I don't believe, based on last summer when you had what's called Midnight Thunder, that was a tactical operation against a facility. And how did Iran respond after we had attacked their nuclear facility? They basically they only responded very lightly. They tried to attack a base nearby, but largely gave us a heads up and didn't do it in a destructive way. After this attack on their leadership and their clerics, it has been much more robust. And that's where I would say that was not predicted. The ability for drones, right, immediately to be able to cause some disruption in the region, in Gulf states, where many U.S. citizens, and I can tell you a brief story about getting people out of Dubai, like that caused a lot more disruption. But then it transpired into the Straits of Hormuz, and that has not been good, as we all could identify. That is the intense focus right now. We've seen with interactions with some of our NATO and European allies that, with again Gulf states included, they are signaling that they could start to help escort ships through the strait. I believe the Royal Navy has agreed to taking a coalition lead on this. This would be a very positive thing, is to have more coalition support on getting this back to a position of being able to have trade go through and help get energy prices down. That's going to be very important. I know it's going to be very important to the administration, and to the extent they were expecting the amount of drone capability right away and the disruptions in Hormuz, that is clearly something that needs to be dealt with. So my hope would be to get good coalition support, get the straits open, and move on past this. Hopefully, we could have a future Iran governance that agrees to either A, not having a nuclear weapon, or truly engaging with the Atomic Energy, the IAEA, and letting their inspectors monitor their facilities. So there could be, safe one-purpose use of nuclear technology in that country. That is a major win for all of us, and I hope that they'd be able to be brought to the table on that going forward. That's one of the key aspects that we should be able to hopefully get out of this. So happy to take more questions on that, but that's the general sense, and that's why it's so important to have a coalition-led support. I'm hopeful that will help in the strait to get that going in the right direction and energy costs coming down. Let's go to Manaway. Corey in Manaway.
Hey, thanks for taking my question. Shifting gears just a little bit here, wondering about what is happening with discussions around healthcare and kind of the reform around that. And even more specifically, Representative Moore, are there ever any questions around and topics around your HSA and using the HSA funds for premiums? I think that would be a great segue into some of the things that's been talked about around the healthcare issues, such as giving the money to the people that actually could pay for their insurance versus the insurance companies. So just curious about that. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great questions. If we were to ask, probably if I were to conduct a poll, healthcare costs, housing costs, I think would be the two most prominent answers or most ubiquitous answers on what are some of the struggles there are. And so we recognize that. So, we focus on it a lot. I'm on the Ways and Means Committee, the subcommittee on health, plus on the budget committee that I'm on. So those are the two major committees that I'm on. Healthcare Task Force, I'm the Healthcare Task Force chair. And this is one of the most frustrating things that we deal with in healthcare is we know true ways to reduce overall costs. Accomplishing that legislatively is so incredibly difficult. Last term was Biden White House, Republican or Democrat-controlled Senate, Republican-controlled House. Go look at our health care bills that we did out of Ways and Means. I don't expect you to, because who would want to go through that's such a boring example. I'll just briefly explain. They were all very bipartisan. They had targeted telehealth. They targeted PBM reform. They targeted HSA, and I'll talk a little bit more about the HSA thing that you mentioned. There was a lot of it that was out there to try to just suppress overall costs and not just pass it on to a different group, right? You can reduce costs for one group, but somebody else finances it. That's usually what happens in healthcare. And these are simple policies that would actually lower overall for everyone. And of that list, hey, we had a big success. We were able to get PBM reform done. Probably didn't hear much about it because it was a part of the end of January appropriations bills that we got done. Like I mentioned, 11 out of 12 were finalized that day. The PBM reform was a part of that. That will help lower prescription drug prices. President Trump has their team has put a lot of time in what I'm going to call most favored nation. And, the concept of not paying as much, if you're in the U.S., not why are we paying, $100 for something that only costs, let's say, $60 in Great Britain? Those discrepancies shouldn't exist. It's really simple to say we shouldn't do that. It's harder to actually implement it because, pharmaceutical companies have a matrix of how they deal with global prices and where they can actually have some of their product and make it available to other areas that just can't pay for some things. But it is unfair ultimately. So the Trump administration is really working hard to try to get this in the right spot. They're making individual deals with major players. And so that's something to look towards as well. It can be it's very difficult to get that accomplished through Congress and everything, because there's always the double-edged sword to some of this type of stuff. But one thing I believe we should all be able to get behind is health savings accounts. So I'm the lead on what's called the HOPE Act. And we've always seen HSAs associated with high deductible catastrophic plans, and kind of where they started. And I just don't think anybody really challenged the question on why. Why in the world won't this apply to more traditional type of premium plans? And so that's what the HOPE Act does. It expands it to virtually anybody on an insurance program. And it's widely talked about. We made some changes in this in the last summer's reconciliation bill, and we were able to make some improvements in HSAs. But significant aspects of this have two major things. One, again, like I said, make it available to more folks, so you just don't have high deductible plans. I used to have a high deductible plan. Now I have a more traditional one. Like, they work at different times for different families, and my son was in Instacare yesterday. It's nice, and I don't know how it all works with copays and everything, but it's nice to have different options. HSA should be a part of whatever type of premium you have. And in our HOPE Act, you can use those funds to pay directly to premiums. And that's the crux of dealing with the big fight in Congress about Obamacare, is we want to give more flexibility and resources to everybody, to all premium holders, and whatever you have, or whatever insurance holder you have, whether you are on Medicaid, whether you're on Medicare, private insurance, you should be able to use, if you have access to an HSA, you should be able to use it for some type of premium. Instead of giving that power directly when it goes straight from taxpayer dollars directly to a subsidy to an insurance company, there's just not market applicability. Like, you create $0 plans under an Obamacare plan. Like high percentages of those plans, they don't even get a claim against them, meaning that people don't even know they have them in some cases. Or maybe they signed up for it a while ago, and if they're not even paying $10, then all of a sudden that's just money directly going, taxpayer dollars going directly to insurance companies. That's what we're trying to change up. And if you were to allow HSAs to be used for premiums, you would have a much better sort of market applicability, or it would structure against the market better. The fact that healthcare costs continually rise beyond even wage increases is a simple factor of there's just very little competition and transparency in this market. And the more we can do to provide that will help keep it in check, just like other types of industries that exist out there. So thank you. Get a little long-winded there, but it helps to see the big picture with respect to what we're working on. And whether it's the HOPE Act or something that expands HSAs, I would love to see Congress be able to do some of that. I think the administration is geared more towards the most favored nation piece that I talked about. That might be where their motivation right now, but I think Congress is more interested in HSAs. You see that play out. Okay, again, start 3 for questions, everyone. And we'll go to Weber County. Cameron. I believe it's Cameron in Weber County.
Yes, sir. So, Congressman, just want to say thank you for taking my question. So something I wanted to just briefly kind of talk about, and also just get your side of it. So as you know, the Trump administration has made a key point of their campaign about mass deportations. Respectfully, since then, they fumbled the ball, especially with the incidences in Minnesota, to the point that it seems they've abandoned the idea entirely. Trump going as far as to say that he will only be going after criminals. The truth is, every illegal is a criminal. They've entered this country illegally, and to allow them to continue to take from the American taxpayer is a form of grand larceny on an unprecedented scale. I might also mention it is also a disservice to the millions of immigrants who have worked their butt off to get into the country legally. And all that is to say, what are you doing to work with the federal government to assist and uphold this administration's promises of mass deportations?
Absolutely. Thank you. And it's excellent points here, and it's candidly why this has been raging on for 30, 40 years, that we have not been able to get this sweet spot right. And so I think the American people are here on recognizing now, when you have Remain in Mexico policy, or the official term of migrant protection protocols from the Trump-Pence administration, to the border security measure, those types of border security measures being sort of pulled back during Biden, and then we saw more border activity, more illegal crossings than we've ever experienced. Nobody can refute that. And then going back to Trump-Vance, reestablishing those same border, we have got to, as a country, recognize, okay, that is a better way to do it. Folks, I still remember the headline, and it did not get nearly the wide outrage that it should have, where I believe it was like 56 migrants that were locked in the back of a van in San Antonio that were smuggled across the border by a cartel, or at least financed by a cartel from these smugglers, whether the smugglers were directly in the cartel or whether they were just financed by them. Regardless, the cartels were running the border, and 53 migrants suffocated in the back of a van because it got abandoned, it was locked. That is the worst. I can't imagine that type of pain and sufferings that those people went through. And that's what lacks those types of border security policies promote. There was tons of just nefarious activity going on. So we need to, at the first stage, address the fact we've got to stick with this type of stuff. I would do so much. In my opinion, this should be our number one issue, is codifying that. So the next administration, Republican or Democrat, has got to continue on with what we're seeing over the success of the last 18 months. I know many members of Congress, Democrat members of Congress, that they may be quiet about it, but they are very supportive of it. We need to lock that in, and I don't know why we can't get that one piece done. It's because of what takes place next. I agree with you. Individuals, the Trump administration's focus on people committing violent acts, that's very supportive. An example, just in Weber County, I won't give much details on it, but somebody that was in partnership with our government was brought over here on a plan because his life was in danger, because he was willing to work with our drug enforcement to put away some bad guys in Mexico. Well, they were brought over here. His family went through the process to be able to get asylum. It was determined that he shouldn't, and that was mutually decided. But his family went through the process. They became parole, then citizen, full citizen. But he himself, it was best to leave him in limbo because of the attention that it would bring, and his family was in a great spot. Now he's facing deportation risks. And I'm fighting like crazy to make sure that doesn't happen. So I would not view that person as an illegal an illegal criminal, somebody that created an illegal. The fact that he has been here through a system that is just not equipped to deal with those specific cases is a tough thing. So I'm not speaking out of both sides here. I'm saying the steps in which we need to go. We need to secure the border. Anybody committing violent crimes, it needs to be first and foremost to make sure our communities are safe. I believe in the process of self-deportation, and you get to be right back in line and go through the process as everybody else does. Then there's so many that get lost in the system, and that's where the sticking points are. There are a lot of legislative plans to get through this, ideas that are put out there, back pay the fines, do whatever is necessary to sort of make restitution for that. You would not be provided any citizenship, but you could potentially have a green card if you pay those fines. Like, there's lots of different plans there. I don't think we can ever get to anywhere unless we make sure to shore up the border. And then, of course, there's a lot of opportunity for visa enhancements, allowing for more ag workers and the like. That's where things are right now, and I'm hopeful to see some legislative action that could stand the test of time. And I just know that it's easier said than done. But I really appreciate the question. Thank you for engaging on it. Let's go back to Layton with James. James from Layton City. James, do we have you from Layton? So I'll jump. If James, you might be muted. If not, I think I have a sense for what James was going to ask. My team was passing along that was asking about the debt. So I'll be brief because I love that this question is pretty much brought up it needs to be brought up at every town hall. Usually when I do an in-person town hall, I have about 6 or 7 slides that articulates this, and they're kind of an evolving piece. Here's the good thing. Over the last calendar year, from 24 to 25, we reduced $360 billion from the deficit. The annual deficit was in the range of about 1.9, approaching $2 trillion. And in the last year, we removed $360 billion. The details behind that, though, are some of that was tariff revenue, some of that was some of the Department of Education changes that were made. It's almost a one-time snapshot. It's not a long-term fundamental fix. I firmly believe there is only one way to address this in a sound, what do I want to say, productive way, and that's through a fiscal commission. And this is not just your Simpson Bowles commission. What we've required in this one, and we passed it last year in the Budget Committee, and we're working on doing it again here soon in the coming months, is it would require a vote from Congress once the commission did its work. Members of Congress would be involved, experts in this, and they would create a potential. This has bipartisan support, and in my opinion, it's the only catalyst that can actually get some of this done. The reason we have the debt we have is it comes down to one major thing. Well, let me say 2 major things, but they're related. One is we don't vote on the entirety of the budget. So I introduced the Comprehensive Congressional Budget Act, and that would require Congress to vote on the entirety of the budget, right? And if you got the chance to vote on some of these programs that I'll mention is the reason why we have this problem, then you would be able to make reforms to them, and it would become natural, become expected to make reforms to it. It wouldn't be like every 20 years you make some changes to Social Security. It's a big deal, and it's a big deal for that 1 year. And then for the next 20 years you look back and say, oh, back in 1984, remember when Reagan and O'Neill sat down and made we shouldn't make changes to any government program, any program associated with the federal government talked about in that way. That we made this change 40 years ago. That's just ridiculous, and it's not doing our job. But so many expenditures in our $7+ trillion budget are under the mandatory budget ledger. So there's 2 sides. There's discretionary and there's mandatory. Discretionary we vote on every year. That has not grown more than inflation over the course of 50+ years. We can keep it in check. We have controls over that pot of money, and it largely stays in that same percentage of the budget, but it largely stays in that same realm. It doesn't grow wildly out of control. The mandatory side, we don't get a vote on it. We set up a program like Medicare in 1965, and then in 2008, baby boomers, as we expected them, were retiring more. So there was more beneficiaries to workers at that point. And that's where we start to topple over, and our debt continues to grow. So the Fiscal Commission Act, you can take a look at it from what happened in the 118th Congress, and we got it through committee. We had bipartisan support. It was a ton of momentum, and it died because some outside groups got way too involved and sort of stymied it. Plus, I'm not sure, we don't think that President Biden would have signed it and enacted it. hopefully we can have a different experience this time, and soon we'll be able to move it in the Senate more. It's got a companion. Senator Curtis is actually doing a lot of doing this bill in the Senate, and it matters. So that's the non-question about debt that I believe was going to be asked. That's covering it, and that's a good way. So again, big reductions in deficits this last year, but that can't solve the problem. We need to make other fundamental fixes and keep working on it. So that's why I chose the committees that I chose, is because that's where a lot of these issues exist. Let's go to Providence, up in Cache with Diana. Diana in Providence.
Good evening. Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Here's my concern. Living in Cache Valley, we're already experiencing a water shortage. But the powers to be, I'm told Governor Cox is pushing high-density housing. Now, I moved to a retirement community in Providence, and they decided to let some townhomes be built behind my house. And my experience with townhomes are that whether the people are illegal or legal, usually there's 2 to 3 families living in those homes, which should not be happening. But my house price dropped $80,000 in less than a year because high-density housing was put in. Now, when you put in high-density housing, that means that you're bringing more people into the area. We're already experiencing a water shortage with Cache Valley. Why are we continuing to build high-density housing? If these people need housing, they need to go to an area where there's not a lot of homes. And if they want to put high-density housing in there, that's fine. But we need to pay attention to the fact that when we do that, we lose our farms, and we're losing our water, which means water is going to go up, and there's going to be a continued water shortage. And everyone in Utah is concerned with that. So why are we continuing to put in high-density housing rather than just regular housing?
Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate the question. Two quick responses to that. Very aware of the water issues. In fact, we work very closely with North Logan, particularly as they've got some infrastructure that they're working on. And the mayor, Peterson, there has been in with our team a lot. Other mayors, county officials up in Cache do a great job of interacting with our team on areas that we can step in and help support. And so, yeah, very aware of that and grateful to Cache County elected leaders of how they're helping navigate this. This is unfortunately not just unique to Cache. It's throughout the entire, particularly the Wasatch Front, but the state of Utah in general. Our housing prices cost too much. We have supply issues, and there is density issues. No question, with water as a limiting factor. A lot of these policies and things that you're talking about will absolutely be dealt with from the state elected leadership, from mayor to governor and back down. So I will defer to local officials for that. What I will just highlight with respect to the way we're trying to address a lot of this is there is a clear need for individuals to be able to get into starter homes and to be able to have the financing available. I don't believe in an approach that would just gift out a significant portion of a down payment. That will never, the basic rules of economics will make it so that would just create more inflation instead of keeping cost in check. I like things that are becoming more innovative on how to make investment opportunities from market-driven sources. Things like I'll bring up a group called Homium. They help create a pool of institutional investors that help first-time home buyers get into a home. They share the down payment. Investors eventually get their return, which is usually a reasonable 5 to 7 type of percentage, where the home buyer does much better, being able to refi years down the road. Like those things are starting to take root. We're working on some regulatory changes to enable more of it to have happen, and that helps solve some of the problems when you make it so there is obviously going to be a high demand, but giving people an opportunity to get their foot in the door, and without doing it in an inflationary way. So those are some of the things that we're focused on. I could go down a list. We've done the road to housing. Senate has a different version. We're trying to conference the two of them. Changes with respect to permitting and things like that should make it a little more affordable, and it doesn't have to be such high density in areas that communities don't necessarily want it. So it's just a tough issue that hits everybody and it hits every single community. I talked earlier about if we were to do a poll, it'd be healthcare and housing are some of the biggest pain points that we have. Let's go. Okay, looks like this will be our last question. Oh, yep, we're going to wrap up here. Time flies. Sincerely appreciate you all for listening in and engaging. And remember, our office in Ogden can handle constituent service issues, whether you have a passport, an issue with an agency, you can call our office in Ogden. Our D.C. office handles mostly legislative matters for things like that. Feel free to contact us. But we just, really appreciate your engagement. And we'll go to the last question in Pleasant View with Rhonda. Rhonda, are you still on?
I am. Can you hear me?
You betcha. Thanks.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. And also, I just wanted to thank you. I really loved the answers that you gave about the Save America Act and the situation with gas prices and whatnot, and several of your other answers. I just was curious. I realize this is not on everybody's radar, but my children signed up for the Trump accounts, and then they haven't heard anything. And I was just wondering what was happening with that. Is that when would they hear something?
Oh, I'm so excited. You're getting signed up for it. That's all you need to do. Everything's fine. You sign up for it. You may get a few email updates here or there. I've also signed up for it. My children will not be getting any funded accounts, but they will be able to get accounts, and we'll get them funded as soon as they open up. You won't. The accounts won't kick in until July 4th. That was always the plan, the 250th anniversary, and so it coincides with that. And that's when they'll start, and they'll grow from there. That's the whole point of them, right? To grow. So nothing's out of the ordinary for you. Just go sign up on Treasury, TrumpAccounts.org. You can fill out a form, and then I just remember I was at Mount Ogden Middle School. I was in 6th grade, and our economics teacher had us balance a checkbook. I still remember it vividly. And that stuck with me. So I want to fast forward to when Frankie, my 4-year-old, is in that same class, and he's had this Invest America account for 10 years, and he gets to see, oh, my dad said when it started it had $500, and now it's got $22.50. And that's neat. My grandparents gave me $50 every Christmas that they were able to put in here. It sounds so small, but folks, people don't start saving for retirement until they're 30. Usually you get done with college, you have some student debt, you start paying off. One of the neat things that we did was we allowed companies to contribute. This was a bill we passed 3 or 4 years ago. We allowed companies to contribute to employees' 401k, even if the employee doesn't provide their own match, if they're paying down a student debt. That's great, and it starts getting people going onto retirement a few years earlier than normal. We're talking 30 years earlier now, right? And so thanks for getting involved in it. This is an awesome idea. We put a little bit of money right now. There's a little cost to it, but it hedges against so many other unknowns with respect to where retirement programs and things like that are going to be. And we get people saving and monitoring their capital accounts. They're seeing how compounding interest works, and voila, they're far more financial literate than I was, because I knew how to balance a checkbook after that Mount Ogden Middle School. but think about if I knew more about investing and saving a little now and how it compounds over time. So that's a great way to end. Thank you, Rhonda, for being involved. Nothing's wrong. They're just going to get more information, and July 4th is the time. So, and if you haven't and you already have kids, right? So, like I said, I've got boys as age 4 to 13. Please go to trumpaccounts.gov and sign up. It's super easy, and they'll be able to get access to an account. They're not going to be very complicated accounts. You'll be able to monitor them. When you get older and you get 18, you'll be able to kind of move them into more IRA-type situations, trying to make it as easy as possible and fun. There's some cool things that we'll do to sort of cater to learning and education for kids as well. So I love being a part of that issue. I'm just really fortunate to be able to meet the individuals working on it. I became the lead in the House and got to see it through. Michael Dell contributed, and his wife Susan contributed $6.25 billion to help fund some of these accounts. I mean, that type of engagement from the philanthropic world is unheard of. And that was a special moment to be able to be a part of that press conference announcing that. So thank you all. Appreciate everything. Keep engaging. And the next one I believe we're going to do is soon. I think it's going to be on April 15th, Tax Day, I guess. I'm on the tax writing committee, so hopefully I'll have my own taxes done before that time. So if my accountant is on the call, I'm going to get it done here soon. I promise you. Thanks, everybody.